Good evening, everybody. Good evening indeed. Wow, we've got some loud music this evening, have we not? Welcome to Absolute Sim Racing, and welcome to another round of the Race Anywhere World Series, the US split of this fantastic championship, Season 2. And we are well in our stride now. We're into the second half of the season, and here on the 23rd of February, we find ourselves at Zolder. Circuit Zolder is a very, very tricky circuit, very narrow, lots of curbs, lots of chicanes, and there's going to be a lot of shenanigans, and hopefully not, but probably, a number of incidents tonight. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm delighted to be back with you once again this evening, or this early morning as it is in the UK, as I keep reminding everybody. The championship situation at the moment, still just as close as ever. We'll be looking through roughly where all of the guys stand at the moment over the course of the evening. But right now, it's time for some practice. The drivers all out there at the moment, just getting their eye in ahead of tonight's 1 hour and 15 minute long race. Here is Daniel Tenorio in his Ferrari, the Twisted Racing Machine. Currently second in the championship, not just in the pro category, but overall. He's 20 points behind Dave Moneno. Jonathan Ouellette is another 15 points behind Tenorio. So it's nice and spread out at the front. There was a very, very interesting battle last time out at Mid-Ohio between these two, finishing first and second. Third place went the way of Tyler Campbell in that category. In the Pro-Ams, we've got a whole assortment of drivers right up there near the top, but Dean Timms is currently leading the championship on 465 points. He is 25 points clear of Andrew Rasmussen, who is out here tonight once again in that beautiful chrome purpley Audi. Looks like a very, very fast chocolate bar, does it not? Jeremy Littleton is third in the championship, 10 points behind this guy here. And then Eric Kulaga, who we were just looking at for just a second there, is on 405 points. He is currently fourth in the standings. In terms of biggest championship leads in class, Justin Delano has 30 points over Stephen Martinez in the AM class. Stephen is then 20 points clear of Michael Fowler, who has then got a 50-point advantage over John Casey in the 046 car. So quite the spread in the AMs, which is, to be fair, reflective of their racing as well. They've actually been the most spread out class this season, as we see a little bit of a moment for Justin there. Here is the man that's currently fastest in practice, though, Jonathan Ouellette. As whoa, hello, that was the Turnburn Moto car, was it not, of John Cooper off the road. John's been having a difficult time with that Audi R8. He's been struggling at certain circuits, and look at the jump there that Jonathan gets over that curb. A number of these drivers are going to have to be very careful tonight due to these curbs. They can make or break your lap. Phantom02 in the chat saying, did someone say shenanigans? Well, there's some shenanigans for you from Jonathan Ouellette. What a save that was. What a save that was, my son. That was lovely stuff. Here's your championship leader, though. Dave Moneno in the SRT Esport Lamborghini. He has a teammate in the form of James Hebb this season. The number 76 car started out, I believe, as Rhino Motorsport, but has moved over since to SRT Esport, hoping that the livery makes him as quick as Dave, to be fair. What Dave's been doing this season, though, has been starting at the back of the class and just waiting for his opportunity, really. He's not been pushing too hard. He's been saving fuel. He's been using the strategy to his advantage. And every single time he's managed to make something work. And that wonderful sounding Lamborghini is probably going to be on form again tonight. He's been incredibly consistent. The only major hit to his championship was the fact that he actually disconnected from the very first race of the season at Silverstone. He was still classified, but he has finished on the podium at every round so far this season. His worst finish coming in round 5 of the championship. 3 wins to his name, 2 wins the way of Jonathan Ouellette, and 1 win the way of Daniel Tenorio. So the wins have been spread out, at least in the pro class. Here is Jeremy Littleton in the Martini Racing branded number 31 Ferrari. Jeremy at the moment in the Pro-Am category. He's currently third in the championship, 10 points off the car ahead, which is Andrew Rasmussen. And he makes his way into the pits. Kai Dalziel. He's a newcomer to this championship still, but he took a very, very important victory at Mid-Ohio last time out. It was great to see that Mercedes getting put to good use as the 20 car of Daniel Florea and Andrew Rasmussen in his Audi have both gone off the road. But coming back to Kai, it was a real breath of fresh air for my colleague Ed May and I to see this Lamborghini, this Mercedes going as well as it did. We'll go on board and listen to the thing. Listen to that. Big burly V8. I'll get my words out. I believe it was still at this point the 6.3 litre V8 in the front of the car. Now it is the 4 litre turbocharged V8 engine, I believe. Same engine that they put in the Aston Martin Vantage. It looks and sounds the part though. Just wish we'd get the facelift version for iRacing. It'd just make the car that little bit more up to date. I doubt it'd be that much different. As wow, oh wow, does Kai take a lot of curb over there. Oh my goodness me. That sounded like a very frustrated Harry Wills that was throwing it off the road. We just had a quick glimpse there at Gary Brown in the FTR Esports Porsche. One of few Porsches on the grid, actually. 3 of which I believe there are. John Casey, Jeff Carollo, just behind Gary on the circuit. And his numbers aren't quite right on Jeff's car. You can see they're slightly white numbers just off the top corner of the number boards. It's an easy fix, that, for which I have on my own YouTube channel. But that is not for now. You need to stick around here and witness the action here on Absolute Sim Racing. It's incredible how fast a season can fly by though, isn't it? We're already over the halfway point here in this championship. I think it's safe to say we're well over halfway in this practice session as well. 1 hour and 27 minutes have so far passed, and it's an hour and a half before this race gets underway. These sessions are important though. Drivers have to get their eye in at these points. Make sure that they're still running exactly as they'd like to. Because you can really easily sort of fall out of a rhythm with a circuit. Especially in the subtle changes between one session to the next. That's something that some drivers don't really consider. Is that while you do often have the weather and conditions carry over, sometimes what the sim will do is it'll move the session on a few hours. You know, some people when they set them up, you can have specific times added in for your sessions. So you can choose to have maybe practice at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. You can then have qualifying at 3 PM and then have the race at 5 PM, for example. And that can make a big difference. Because the sun is in a different position, the temperature of the circuit may have risen or dropped in that time, dependent on, of course, the positioning of the sun and winds and air temperature. There can be big differences between them. Now, Eric Kulaga was a bit of a naughty boy at Mid-Ohio. He tried to stick his nose in a gap that was closing, unfortunately. He's got to go for the gap sticker on the side of the car, though, so fair play to him. He's living up to the branding name, which is one of our wonderful partners here in this series. But yeah, Eric was unfortunately not in the right place at the right time at Mid-Ohio, and was the main catalyst for a very, very large incident after the opening corner for the Pro-Ams. 15 seconds though, and the session will come to a close. So we'll have to wait now and see what everybody's got in their locker around this very, very tough circuit. Like I've said, so many chicanes and big curbs here. We've seen a couple of drivers really hopping those curbs. And there is the checkered flag as well being waved through the wall by a wonderful iRacing marshal. It falls quiet over the circuit for just a moment then. And it's then left up to me to give you the starting order for today's race. John Cooper will start on pole position alongside Tyler Campbell, with Harry Wills and Jonathan Ouellette on row 2. Then we have Daniel Tenorio and Dave Moneno rounding out your pro field. Then it's Braden Carroll and Kai Dalziel. Jeff Carollo and Logan Vida round out your top 10. Errol Urexoy will line up alongside Michael Kulaga on row 6, with Gary Brown and Taylor Lane on row 7. We then have Eric Kulaga and Jeremy Littleton on row 8, with Andrew Rasmussen and Dean Timms rounding out your Pro-Ams. We've got a very, very long pace lap here, full lap of Zolder, so plenty of time to tell you about our Am field. Jason Bridges at the front of them. He's had a very, very difficult time in that Mercedes this season. James Hebb will be alongside him in his Lamborghini. Matthew Plaisance and Daniel Florea make it an all-Ferrari row 2 ahead of John Casey and Michael Fowler. They'll be on row 12. Stephen Martinez and Justin Delano will round out your grid on row 13, although by the look of it, Andrew Rasmussen and Logan Vida will be starting from the pit lane. So at the very front of the pack then is a man that's had a really, really difficult time getting used to the Audi R8 this season. I've driven it myself in a league before, and I can tell you, for one, it is an absolute nightmare when it wants to be. The car feels like it's got no rear end grip sometimes, especially through some of the higher speed sections. It just feels like it's got a very skinny back end and a very loose rear wing on it. Maybe a very, very pretty car, but yeah, it's not always the most stable. Now, it's quite an interesting day to be talking about R8s, because the new iteration of the Audi R8 LMS, the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2, has just been announced as a car that will be on the grid for the British GT Championship in 2022 under the guise of Balfour Motorsport. Balfour have run many cars before, most notably McLarens for the last couple of years. But now they make the switch over to Audi and their wonderful new R8 LMS Evo 2. If you haven't seen the Evo 2 before, please do go and have a look at it. It's got these incredible rear wing struts that sort of go behind the rear wing and then over the top of it, much like the GT2 spec Audi R8. It's an insanely good looking car, and hopefully, for everybody's sake that's going to be driving it, it goes as well as it looks. You can see our Am field and our Pro-Am field just slowing down the pace quite a bit to give room to the pros at the front. But even here, look, on the pace lap, there's not really much room for people to be going side by side. This isn't just going to be a race about endurance of who can stay on the pace. This is going to be a race of endurance of who can stay on the track, to be honest with you. And as John Cooper turns and burns that moto round the last corner, well, the last corner before the chicane anyway, the Jackie Ixbocht. We've got Jochen Rindt bocht, Boulderberg bocht, which is the hairpin just before it. Plenty of bochts. Even Butt, the left-hander before the Villeneuve chicane. Anyway, enough blabbering from me about bochts and butts. It's time to get round 6 of the Race Anywhere World Series underway. And John Cooper lights it up. And across the line he goes to lead us away then for an hour and 15 minutes, and straight down the inside already. Jonathan Ouellette, 2 places gained. Absolutely love that from Jonathan. He loses the back end slightly though. Tyler's glued to the back of him. Does he make anything of it? Tyler round the outside, tries a move, doesn't quite work. Maybe a bit of contact between the two. Harry Wills now looking down the inside. We need to go back to the Pro-Ams because they're next across the line. And it's Braden Carroll leading Kai Dalziel, and Jonathan Ouellette's off the road. Jonathan Ouellette's had a nightmare. We'll have to come back and see what happened to him. I really hope there wasn't contact with Tyler, but it looked like there was a bit of contact leading into it. Dean Timms having to work hard from the back of the field. Oh, Jeff Carollo's off. Jeff Carollo's off in the wall in the Porsche. And here come your pros. Jason Bridges leading them away in a Lewis Hamilton branded Mercedes. Big, big noise from that car. Everyone just trying to keep it nice and tidy through there. Looks like that whole class has made it through nice and safely. Still 2x2 in most cases, but importantly for the championship, we need to see what happens to Jonathan Ouellette. Let's see. So he's got Tyler Campbell behind. Oh, Tyler just runs straight into the back of him. Tyler was late on the brakes, and we've got some trouble. We've got trouble for James Hebb in the Lamborghini. James has had an issue, to say the least. John Casey's gone off. Oh, I think James has lost it in front of him. Whoa, what on earth happened there to John? Oh, James, wow. Wow, oh, wow. Was that Justin Delano? It was. Justin was so lucky not to clip him there. Look at this. So there's a Porsche on the right, and suddenly there's smoke, and then, oh, I don't know if James was holding his brakes there. I'm pretty sure he was, because the car stopped very suddenly when it got back on the road, but wow, that was a scary moment. John Cooper leads us then after a lap. Tyler Campbell's got Harry Wills for company. Daniel Tenorio right behind him as well. And then look, Dave Moneno once again, sort of back of the field in terms of those that are up front. But he's just doing what he does. We've seen this a lot from Dave Moneno. He doesn't always push it off the get-go. As here's a battle in the AMS. Matthew Plaisance and Daniel Florea. Florea goes through down the inside at turn 2. Or does he? They remain side by side on the way down to Lucien Bianchi-Bocht. And the Ferrari train continues. In the Pro-Ams, it's nice and close. Michael Kulaga's in the thick of it. He's got Taylor Lane right behind him. Taylor leading the Pro-Am Championship at the moment. He's got fellow BMW driver Errol Yuriksoy for company, tucked right up behind his rear wing as well. Errol's got Jeremy Littleton for company. But he doesn't seem too worried about it at the moment. He's sort of putting the car in the middle of the road. He's not really going defensive, but just sort of showing Jeremy that he doesn't want him to come through. Across the line they go, fantastic noise, and there's Gary Brown in the Porsche. He's actually putting Jeremy under pressure, to be honest with you. So Jeremy more needs to worry about what's going on behind him rather than in front of him, as that's very close there from Dean Timms. On the back of Gary Brown, pressurises him into running wide. Either that or Gary's basically said, I'd rather not. Oh, it's Michael Kulaga's off. Kulaga in the Vulture Motorsports Ferrari is around at Lucien Bianchi-Bocht. Lights up the rears, gets going again. Good patience there to wait for the chance to get on with that rejoin. Right then. This is our pro battle at the front. John Cooper starting to open up a little bit of a lead here over Tyler Campbell. He's been fighting with Harry Wills. Harry chucks one up the inside into turn 1. Doesn't quite work this time. Tyler's put the car in the right place. Harry's got his teammate Daniel Tenorio behind him as well, so these two could potentially work together. Daniel's got a front row seat for this bout that we're going to see. Daniel needs to be careful though. He's up there fighting for the championship with the guy behind him. So he doesn't want to take too many risks. Harry takes a bit of a risk over the curbs, really pushes his luck there. Look how tough the Villeneuve chicane is. Such a horrible corner. Depends on what car you're in, I suppose. As, oh, Matthew Plaisance has gone off. What's happened to Matthew? He's in a bit of a fight. Oh, just clips the grass. He's on the right-hand side trying to make sure that he's out of the way and, you know, not pinching somebody to the apex, but unfortunately he just clips the grass that tiny bit too much. And that's what turns the car around. Errol Yuriksoy's got a right old battle going on behind him. Jeremy Littleton, Dean Timms. Jeremy's gone straight on. He comes back on. Whoa! Lovely stuff by Jeremy there to make sure he doesn't come right into the path of the other drivers. Rasmussen around the outside of him. Now let's not forget, Rasmussen started from the pit lane. Logan Vida has actually not taken to the race. You can see there he's not being picked up by the timing software. So Logan clearly wanted to start from the pits and hasn't done. Oh, Jason Bridges has just been off. He's lost the AM lead to Daniel Florea. And oh, Braden Carroll's gone off as well. He's at a moment at the chicane. So a couple of drivers early on. They are just having a few issues here and there. And John Cooper in the pro category. This is Bianchi box. Oh, John. Oh, my goodness me. That's a massive impact. He's lucky not to get collected by anybody else, but if you needed 5 seconds of replay to sum up John Cooper's season, that is it. He's been leading the way, and then he's just had the tiniest of moments that's caused a big old accident for him. It's absolutely devastating. That's Eric Kulaga letting Jeremy Littleton through. That's an interesting moment. This is James Hebb having his own moment as well. He's gone a bit too hot into the hairpin. Oh, and look at that. Suddenly either snatches a brake or just locks up the brakes completely and loops the car. Now for the race lead, Tyler Campbell is out front, but he's got that Audi of Harry Wills right behind him. Harry's another one driving the Audi that's had the odd issue with it, but there's no issue with driving all the way around the outside of Tyler Campbell. Go on, sunshine. Harry Wells, what a move that is for the race lead. Unbelievable stuff. And look at this now. Daniel Tenorio, his teammate's going to come through past Tyler as well, is he? Tyler doesn't get the run he wants. He's been pressured into going side by side. No. Doesn't quite work that way, but Harry Wills, take a bow. That was gorgeous. Look at this. Gets the car where he wants it around the outside. Carries plenty of speed, even with hitting the curb as well. And that final swoop around the outside there gets it done. And then Tyler just couldn't live with it. Tyler could not live with it, could he? That was epic stuff. This is Dean Timms going down the inside of Errol Yuriksoy, his teammate. And then Errol says, well, if you're going to go that slowly, mate, I'll come back past if you want. And now, Gary Brown's in the picture. He says thank you. He's got a bit late on the brakes, to say the least. Somehow they don't have a massive accident. Fair play, Gary. Fair play, Gary, because he got that stop then at least. He could have easily overdone that. Azor, I feel Rasmussen's overdone that. Interesting to see that some of these cars have different branding on them. So some of them have Michelin, some of them have Pirellis. As oh no, John Cooper has gone off again at turn 1. That Audi is looking rather worse for wear, isn't it? It's not looking the most comfortable of all Audis I've ever seen, I must say. Jeremy Littleton, though, at the back of this little train that we've got going on. But it's a very interesting train, isn't it? Right in the middle of the Pro-Ams. This is 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th in class. Gary Brown at the front of these lot. And the Porsche just screaming its way down to the Villeneuve chicane. Great shot of them coming through there, one way then the other, very, very quickly. Through the two right-handers at Turleman Bocht. And then onto the brakes once more. Need to look further down the order because Justin Delano and Jason Bridges are having a fight. Jason shoves it down the inside again and says, not on your life, I'm defending this. Delano loses the back end on exit. Has a bit of a wobble. Michael Fowler says thank you very much. And through he goes, or does he? Delano looks slightly down the inside. Just shows his nose. Oh, Jeremy Littleton and Braden Carroll have had a coming together. We'll have to go back and have a look at that once this calms down. But Justin... Oh, following this battle here, Jason has a bit of a tough time in that final chicane. Moves out of the way. I'm not sure if he had a slowdown penalty or something, but didn't look like he really caught or cut the circuit at all. Excuse me. Let's have a look then at what happened to Braden Carroll. Oh, wow. Oh, no. I know exactly what's happened here. I think some of you would have picked up on it as well. Braden was leading the class. He's just clipped the grass. Oh, and it's dragged him to the wall. But that's not everything, I'm afraid. Oh, man. Now, part of me really hopes that Andrew Rasmussen was not doing this intentionally to block the car behind him, because look at how close he gets to this parked Lamborghini. Part of me really hopes that he didn't do that on purpose. I'm imagining that, I think, to be fair, Andrew's in the pits as well. He's got damage from that, so I don't think he did do that on purpose. I think he genuinely just came out of the final corner and he was just looking at the car behind, because let's face it, Littleton was closing in very suddenly on him after he had a poor exit out of the chicane. And then before you know it, there's a car in front of you parked in the middle of the road facing the wrong way. That's a hell of a scary moment, isn't it? That's the thing, though. It's only a short straight here at Zolder, so you can easily get distracted on the way down it. Or even on the way out of this final chicane. Before you know it, you're suddenly halfway down the straight. We're back on board with Daniel Tenorio, though. Using every bit of the road and some more to try and get by Tyler Campbell. Harry Wills is off up front, leading the race. Tenorio keeps his nose down the inside. He puts the pressure on Tyler. Just loses that overlap. All the while, look who's right behind them. Dave Moneno, championship leader. As comfortable as you like in fourth place. Oh, John Cooper. John Cooper's had another nightmare here. Let's see what's gone on. He's on his way into the pits. Oh. Well, it said on my software that he'd had a moment, but it seems like it was just him slowing down for the pits. So once again we have Tyler Campbell involved in a battle. He's always in amongst it, isn't he, is Tyler? He's certainly been an entertaining driver this season. Someone who else been entertaining as well. I'm not biased in any way, but I tell you what, Taylor Lane, the way that this man's been moving forward race after race has been brilliant. We didn't see him actually last time out at Mid-Ohio, so he doesn't currently lead the championship. He's 75 points off Dean Timms, but Taylor has the most wins in the class this season. He didn't race in round 1, he didn't race in round 6. He's only done 4 races and he won 3 of them. So that shows you the capability of this fiercely forward driver, and that is exactly how he moves in these races. Jonathan Ouellette has had a problem again. What's left of the car has unfortunately come to a halt. I think he decides that enough is enough and makes his way into the pits. Although he's gone back out, to be fair to him. So he must have had some sort of damage fixed or something go on there. But we're back at the front with this lot. Another incredible battle for the overall race lead. As into the pits actually comes Tyler Campbell. Seems like quite the early point to be doing this, you know. Maybe Jonathan was not randomly coming into the pits for damage or anything else. Maybe it was a scheduled stop that he was performing. You can hear Tyler just gradually changing gear up and down. Sometimes that can affect the speed that you're doing in the pit lane and allow you to get away with just a tiny percentage more, but sometimes, nowadays especially, you can get caught out with that, although this may be the reason. Although, to be honest with you, our timing software says so-and-so crashed when they go under a certain speed because it figures out that they've stopped, basically. Yeah, I think it's just basically saying that so-and-so has entered the pit lane. So I think I need to change that slightly. Just to be a bit more accommodating. This is Delano and Fowler. Eclipse Racing Esports and Twisted Racing Team against one another. It's great watching these cars make their way around this circuit, isn't it? Because it is so narrow, you know, they never get a moment's rest around here. At all. One corner precedes the next. And it all happens in the blink of an eye. The field is quite spread out at the moment, though. If we show you where everybody is, we're currently looking at the yellow dot on your map, which is Justin Delano. 4th in his class. Overall race leader Harry Wills is just on the back straight going towards the chicane. Daniel Florea is the AM leader. He's just going down towards the hairpin, the Boulderberg Bocht, near the end of the lap. And then there is your Pro-Am leader, Taylor Lane. So Taylor has got no traffic in front of him for quite a while now. Nothing really to worry about from where he's standing, or sitting, or driving. Just churning out the laps. Lap after lap after lap. And getting the job done. And doing it well as well in that BMW. I'm just having a bit of an issue here at my end with something PC related, and I'm just worried it may affect the stream. If you all just give me 2 seconds, I will be right back with you. Sorry about this. I'm just making sure that I get this sorted. I'll be right back, everybody. Sorry. Sorry about that, everybody. Thank you very much for your patience there. Just having a bit of a technical issue with something trying to constantly self-update, and with the way my bandwidth is, honestly, it would affect the stream, I can tell you that 9 times out of 10. Anyway, current situation is we're 20 minutes in. Harry Wills leads the way overall. Taylor Lane leads the Pro-Am category. And Stephen Martinez is currently top of the AMs. Now, we've had a couple of pit stops already, but not too many of them. And there's only really 3 cars in the field that have pitted early on, and they've taken a bit less fuel than we'd expect. Tyler Campbell is one of them. Jonathan Ouellette is the other. And the third is Daniel Florea of Twisted Racing. So some of them dotted in and about the field in places you wouldn't expect, especially for this early on in the race as well. In terms of the fastest laps, it was a 1:27.6 by Harry Wills. There's nobody else, even in the pros, that has done within 2/10 of that. So Harry absolutely on the move, it has to be said, with a bit of a dented front end on that Audi. I think some of the battling and shenanigans earlier has slightly damaged the car, but not too much. Still looks good and sounds good, doesn't it? Into the chicane he goes once more. His teammate Daniel Tenorio 1.84 seconds back. Daniel, as mentioned, currently sits second in the championship, 20 points off Dave Moneno, who is still in third, 3.4 seconds behind him. Dave's been able to sort of match the pace, but he was an entire second slower than Tenorio on that final lap, so I'm not quite sure what happened to Dave. It's unlike him to make mistakes. Plenty of pops and bangs on the overrun as the Lamborghini Huracan slows down, goes down through the gears, uses up all of the fuel to just make pretty noises. Because let's face it, that's what Lamborghinis do best. This is John Casey chasing down the other of the 2 Lamborghinis. The SRT cars, anyway. Once again, fantastic GT3 noises. The engines in these cars making a real racket. All around 500 horsepower GT3 cars. Obviously due to weight and balance of performance and different restrictors and so on certain circuits, it just has to be given us around 500 horsepower. I can tell you, when I commentated on the 2020 Nürburgring 24 hours in the real world, there was some 30 horsepower different from one car to the next, as in the fastest car, essentially the most powerful to the least powerful. There was 30 horsepower different. That was incredible. I was incredible. No, I wasn't. I was awful. I was amazed by the big difference. I was given the balance of performance sheet. You know, the weights weren't even that different either. That's what was mad about it. But obviously certain cars just used it better than others, it seems. This is Dean Timms, currently 13 places gained from where he started in this race. He's overtaken pretty much all of the Pro-Am field except for class leader Taylor Lane. We are now over 25 minutes of the way through this race. But look, Taylor nowhere to be seen. He's nearly 6 seconds up the road. There he is. You can see him just going into that final chicane. Looks like Dean's braking really late there, but he's got it absolutely spot on. Across the line once more. That's 17 laps in the book for Dean Timms. Harry Wills is over halfway round his 17th lap. In terms of the AMs, Justin Delano is ahead of 2 Pro-Ams. That's Kai Dalziel and Errol Urixoy, both of whom have pitted, though. That is the difference there. But Justin, once again, doing a great job. He leads the championship by 30 points. He's going to extend that even more going into the last 3 rounds. Sorry, last 4 rounds of the championship. This is round 6. Sorry, this is round 7. I apologise. I thought I got it wrong earlier. That was me forgetting to change a tiny bit of information on our overlay. So I do apologise. We're well into the second half of the season now, you could say. Harry Wills in the pits. Stops in his box. There's John Cooper's car. Harry will now take fuel. I don't think he'll take tyres. And Harry, before you know it, will be back out on track. We're seeing a number of cars pitting now. Around the 27-minute mark. We do see them go for just over half an hour sometimes. But it depends on who's been saving fuel and when. And obviously how much of it. This is John Casey, who's currently 3rd in the AM category. Some near 2 minutes off the race leaders though, but at the end of the day, he's just got to deal with those in his class. James Hebb is 6 seconds ahead. Justin Delano some half a minute ahead. Like I said before, the AMs are usually the most unpredictable and entertaining of the classes, but today they've been a bit more spread out even compared to normal. I mean, we're less than half an hour into this race and there's still half a minute between class leader and 3rd place. Into the pits then comes an influx of cars. That's Matthew Plaisance just behind. Fellow AM driver Daniel Tenorio and Dave Moneno are in the pits. Dave not doing anything, well, nothing obviously different to the other drivers right now. We've seen at other rounds he's taken shorter pit stops than others to take less fuel. Now this is an interesting development. Harry Wills is behind Tyler Campbell. Tyler pitted a lot earlier. Jonathan Roulette has not benefited from this at all. Jonathan actually just pitted on his previous lap, but he's a couple of laps down now. Jonathan has a completely clean car, actually. Well, sort of. The wing's still a little bit bent in the left rear, isn't it? But Jonathan's been in for at least 3 minutes worth of repairs. Tyler Campbell has inherited the race lead, though. He's ahead of Harry Wills, Daniel Tenorio, and then Dave Moneno's quite a while back here, so this could be the chance for Tenorio to reclaim a bunch of points. Between every position is 5 points difference, so you get 100 for winning the race, then 95 second, then 90, 85, 80, 75, 70, and so on. So right now, Dave isn't going to lose too much in the way of points, to be honest. He'll lose 5 points to Tenorio, but he wants to make sure that the gap at the top stays as large as possible. He's close for the lead in the Pro-Ams as well. Kai Dalziel, well, he was right behind Taylor Lane earlier on. Whoa, he's not behind anybody there. Massive jump over the curbs. He was just chasing Dean Timms. As he gets into the chicane, the Kleiner chicane, it all goes to pot. That was a big old jump over the curbs, and it's dented the bonnet even. It's brought some of the middle of the bonnet up. It's affected that big vent. Not sure what that's going to do to the car in terms of its overall performance, but still, that's not exactly a desirable effect, that's for sure. Half an hour into the race now. And the lead battle is really, really hotting up. Tyler Campbell, FTR Esports, Harry Wills, Twisted Racing, and then his teammate Daniel Tenorio with the best seat in the house right now in 3rd position. That corner there is Butt, and then this is Villeneuve chicane. And it was around that corner and on the way down the hill where we tragically lost Gilles Villeneuve during practice for the Belgian Grand Prix that year. And look at this, Harry really deep into the hairpin. Didn't think he was going to get that stopped for a second there. But then again, there's been a few moments like that, hasn't there, for each of these drivers so far in this race. It certainly is a circuit that demands the very best of your braking capabilities. Looks like Andrew Rasmussen's had a problem just recently through the chicane, just bounces. Is that going in a wall? Yes. Just clips that curb a little bit too much, and that is all it can take. The slightest of touches. I'm not even sure if that has knocked the car out of shape slightly. It looks like the steering was a bit damaged. It was a hit against a solid wall, and let's face it, you don't want that in your race car. And there is Andrew limping it back, but Tenorio has to take a compromised line. He won't be too happy with that one. That's not an easy thing to deal with. Dave Moneno has just been in the pits for 3 seconds. He's just stopped in his box for 3 seconds. I wonder why. Not sure if he's taken a splash and dash or something at this point, but that's a very short pit stop for Dave. 3.13 seconds. That is incredibly short for a GT3 car. That's just behind him is Dean Timms. He leads his class. Kai Dalziel just behind him as well. There he is. And are we going to see Gary Brown? I believe we are. Just didn't get it in time with the camera, but there you go. There is Gary Brown in the FTR Esports car. Taylor Lane just behind him. Taylor was in the pits for a lot longer. Whoa! And Gary Brown was in the air a lot longer. He's got the car stopped. Gets it turned around again. But Gary Brown... big old moment. Look at that over the curbs. And Taylor got very lucky there. Very, very lucky indeed. Fair play to Gary for getting it stopped. But I'm sure that Taylor will need his fiercely forward overalls fiercely dry cleaned after that one. That's enough to wake anybody up. Just keeping an eye on the battles that we have through the field. Taylor Lane and Errol Yerixoy about 8/10 apart. Same with the class leaders in the AM class here. This is Daniel Florea chasing Steven Martinez. He's trying to go for it for that class lead. And overall for the race lead, Tyler Campbell still under pressure from Harry Wills. The gap's gone up to about half a second, so it's not as small as it was earlier. But it's not exactly a comfortable margin for Tyler Campbell, is it? You can see he's not comfortable either. He's getting out of the way, getting out of the slipstream to make sure that Harry doesn't get any tiny advantage as they come down the straight. Oh, and Gary Brown, I think, has had another little off. Actually, it's only showing that he's been off for a couple of seconds, so I think maybe he's just run wide or something through one of the chicanes. But what an intriguing fight we have going on here. Then Tyler Campbell chasing Tyler Campbell running away from Harry Wills. And Harry really closes up on the brakes, and Tyler's jumped it over the curb. Oh, and you've got to think that that was in avoidance. You have to think that Harry went really late on the brakes. Tyler got out of it, and he's gone way too hot into the chicane. He's attacked the curb, jumped one, then the other. Oh, with how good Tyler's been through that chicane all day, I have to say, I think, not that it's Harry Wills' fault, but, you know, Harry was clearly going a little bit later on the brakes. Whether that was by accident or not is completely academic, but unfortunately, I think Tyler just decided to get off the brakes there and try and get out of the way, and it has not worked a bit. Well, that's a big race-changing moment. He's still ahead of Dave Moneno, though, because Dave is a good another half a minute down after that secondary pit stop. Still not sure what the situation is there with Dave. We'll have to try and find out whenever we get chance. Only two cars within a second of each other right now are these pair. Daniel Florea chasing down Steven Martinez. This is for the class lead in the AMS. Daniel's just been gradually chipping away at Steven, piece by piece, corner by corner. Love these sorts of helicopter shots over Zolder. As you see these cars winding their way through the wonderful scenery. Look how much curb they're all using as well. Daniel using every bit of the road that he can to try and get a run on Martinez, but it's not working yet. Obviously very similar cars, both in the Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. I would say identical cars, but this is not a fixed setup championship, so the cars may behave slightly differently from one another depending on what the drivers have done to it. But this is your battle for the AM lead. Nearly 40 minutes of this race completed now. And that has gone by very, very quickly indeed. Bit of traffic going on in front of these guys here. John Casey in the number 78 Porsche. He's got Jeff Carollo just in front of him. And it can sometimes all get a bit checked up and a bit crossed up when it comes to lap traffic around Zolder. I've had the pleasure of commentating on a number of virtual bell car events, one of which here at Zolder is their very famous 24 hours of Zolder. And that's a real wake-up call of a race, I can tell you that. That is a real wake-up call. Some of the traffic that you see in that race and some of the overtaking manoeuvres, just unbelievable. Steven Martinez makes his way through the traffic. John Casey taking it easy and getting out of the way for these guys. Nice sportsmanship. Doesn't want to make their lives hard. Now Jeff Carollo's in a bit of a pickle here because he's chasing down Gary Brown, who's not too far ahead of him, but Steven Martinez is actually chasing him for overall race position. But obviously not class position. Now we've had every car make at least one stop so far. Some have made a few others due to damage and all sorts. Trying to correct the odd issue with their cars, but nothing too out of the ordinary so far. Let's have a look how the field is spread around the circuit. Well, you can't get much more evenly spread than that, can you? There's cars occupying every single inch of the racetrack. And look at that, Jeff Carollo has actually moved over and said, no thank you, after you boys, you go ahead and enjoy yourselves, and I will sit back here and see what's what. When you're in that situation, you know, to be able to back out of it and say, no, the lapped car is going to be quicker than me, or the lapping car is going to be quicker than me. It takes a big man to sort of establish that and realise that in your own head, to be honest. It takes a very level-headed racing driver to do so. Into the Villeneuve chicane again. Steve Martinez still looking back with Daniel Florea there. The gap is always a couple of tenths between these two. Not much at all. We're hoping that the move will come cleanly and suddenly with a nice opportunistic move by Daniel Florea, but he just needs to be careful not to make any contact, not to get himself in the naughty books. Interesting to hear how many times he changes up and down the gears as well through the chicane and into it and even on the exit. For certain corners it is sometimes worth just changing down that extra gear just to get the extra bit of rotation, bit of engine braking, and then other times you want to stay in a higher gear so that you can carry the momentum a lot more easily and save an extra gear change on the way up. Into the chicane once again we come, the Kleiner chicane. That was a great run that time by Florea. It's not enough to get the lead before the Villeneuve chicane, but he's going to get a bit of slipstream off Martinez. No, he decides against it this time round into the Villeneuve chicane once more. This is the 28th time they've done this set of corners. And to be fair, even with the amount of laps you'd do over even a 6-hour race around here, I don't think any amount of laps can completely prepare you for the onslaught that is Zolder. Andrew Rasmussen in his very shiny purple Audi has had an issue. Whoa, way too fast into the Villeneuve chicane. Off the road he goes, and he does recover it. That was Tyler Campbell going through in the Ferrari. Just having another look then at Daniel Florea and the man he's chasing, Stephen Martinez, to see where this battle develops, if there is a major change. All it could take is one mistake from either of them. You know, Daniel could push a little bit too hard trying to get past, loop the car, and that'd be it. Or Stephen could make a mistake. Even if he does do that though, Daniel's then got to make sure he's in the right place at the right time not to get caught up in it. So these sort of races and these sorts of battles can go both ways very, very quickly. Just over half an hour left of this race to go now. There's only 0.3 of a second between these pair. This is great stuff. Hats off to Daniel Florea for the patience as well. He's clearly got a bit of pace over Stephen, but not too much. But he's not pushing too hard. He's not overdoing this attack. He's just waiting for that mistake to come from Stephen. Well, that made you that made me jump anyway. Harry Wills still leads the race from Daniel Tenorio. The gap, though, is 0.75 of a second. Over the line, it was less than 7/10. 7/10. Should say, sorry. Chaz has had a very, very long day. But it's a twisted 1-2 at the moment. Tyler Campbell is back in the pits. Now, is this going to be his final stop? That's the question. Now, I like that. I like drivers that do that. They pull into the box aggressively at the last second rather than driving down the whole pit lane through where everybody else's teams and pit crews would be. I'm a big fan of that. Love your work, Tyler. Love your work. This is Errol Yerksoy. He's in a bit of no man's land at the moment. He's got 4.5 seconds to the car behind, 5.2 seconds to the car in front. Not a whole lot to do right now. Taylor Lane, one of the cars he's chasing. Eric Kulaga, the car directly behind him on the road. And the Vulture Motorsports machine circling overhead, waiting for a mistake to come. Right now, the way that Errol's been driving seems very tidy indeed. I've been told a lot that BMW is a really stable car. Deborah Wright saying, "Go Kai, love from Florida." Phenomenal stuff. Kai Dalziel currently second in his class as well, Pro-Am. 5th overall in the race, as things are. He's 13 seconds behind Dean Timms, though. Dean is running away with this one, I must say. And in the AM class, it's not the same. Stephen Martinez and Daniel Florea still right together. Martinez could just be playing the long game here. Sorry, Florea could be just playing the long game here, just saving fuel, making that pit stop that tiny bit shorter. To be fair to Stephen, he was in the pits for 4 seconds less than Daniel on that last stop. I'm very intrigued to see where this ends up and how this develops. Tyler Campbell finds himself in amongst the Pro-Ams at the moment. He's got Kai Dalziel right in front of him, as mentioned. Taylor Lane just behind in the big, beefy, fiercely forward BMW. This is probably a little bit helpful for Taylor right now because he's got a pro driver of pro driver pace right in front of him. And he's using that slipstream to keep him there and also to save fuel. So if Tyler is starting to catch Kai, that could help Taylor out in the long run in terms of getting second place. It's great stuff watching these cars navigate and weave their way through the trees, through the scenery, all the shadows and the lighting, all of it. You've got to love it. Just enjoying the sights and sounds of GT3 racing right now. It's been a fantastic league to be broadcasting and commentating on. And even with the time zone difference, if you are new to us or new to the series, then I'm currently broadcasting this from the UK, 2:25 in the morning. But luckily it's what we call half term here in the UK, so it's not an early start for me tomorrow taking my son to school, which means that this is a little bit more of a comfortable late night for me. It's still one of the most tired evenings I've been or had in a long, long time, but still. Daniel Florea is now in the pits, so Stephen Martinez is free to continue and crack on with his race without him, without the added pressure of having a car try and get past you, or at least fill your mirrors. Because, being completely honest, it didn't look like Florea was really pushing to get past. It's just interesting to see that out of the 2 cars that pitted, the one that was in the slipstream and could have been saving fuel is the one that pitted first. 22.1 seconds in the box for Daniel Florea. James Hebb is in there with him as well in the AM class, the other SRT Esport Lamborghini. Right now, things have settled down before that final push at the end. We saw it at Mid-Ohio. There's a bit of daylight between a lot of the cars as Daniel Tenorio goes past Harry Wills. Or does he? Oh, there's contact between the 2 teammates in the chicane. Tenorio gets a bit of a smack in the face. Wow. We'll go on the chopper cam and have a look at what space was given. I think Harry's car might have stepped out slightly. Let's have a look. Harry's on the outside. Daniel makes the apex. There is a car's width. Yeah, honestly, I think the back end of Harry's car just stepped out slightly and it flicked the other way. And he managed to save it, but in doing so, has caused big damage to Daniel Tenorio. Now Daniel's got to hope that that doesn't affect his championship in as big a way either. If he's got what's called a meatball flag, then he'll have to come in. The flag with a black flag with a orange circle in the middle means that either there's something wrong with your car, something malfunctioning, something damage-wise, and you need to come in ASAP to have it sorted because it is not safe. Daniel Tenorio, I think, with that little mistake there, is potentially going to be getting that flag as well. But he pushes on. In terms of his lap time, it was a 30.1 last time round. Obviously, the contact in the final chicane would have extended that from the undoubted 127s that he was in beforehand. And look, there you go. Straight into the pits comes Daniel Tenorio. Now, is he going to be taking just fuel, or is he going to get the car repaired here, do you think? I'm pretty sure that 9 out of 10 of us would go for the repair. Crawling down the pit lane. Seems like it lasts absolutely forever, doesn't it? It may be quite the short straight here at Zolder, but they use every inch of it for the pit lane. This is Delano. He's actually behind Jeff Carollo for position. Doesn't need to get past him, but it's a nice to have if you do for Justin Delano. Back up over the crest of the hill once again. Through Butt, down into the Villeneuve chicane. Now James Hebb is on the back of Jason Bridges. This is for position as well. This is for 18th and 19th overall. 6th and 7th in the AM class. So as mentioned earlier, there's always points on offer here. This being the standard sort of championship format that you get in the world of motorsport, where drivers get points based on their finishing position, and whoever has the most points at the end wins, basically. Harry Wills is in the pits, speaking of winning. He brings the Audi R8 into the pit lane. Now, Tyler Campbell's got a bit of damage on his car, but importantly, he's also got a bit of traffic around him, and it's not slowpoke traffic either. Car in front is Taylor Lane, car behind is Eric Kulaga. Great to see, though, the way these guys are pushing. Yeah, Matthew Plaisance has picked up by Phantom02 in the chat. He's currently in 5th place in his class in the Eclipse Racing Esports Ferrari. Matthew's another one that's had some horrendous luck every now and then. He carries on. When was the last time that Matthew came in? He appeared on lap 18, so he's still got maybe one more lap in the books, actually. He's just finished his 35th lap, so I'd imagine we'll see Matthew into the pits this time round. Here's Jeff Carollo. He's got Justin Delano for company. Now, Justin's in a completely different class to him, so he could just let him go. He could let him by and say no thank you. 20 minutes left of this race already. And into the pits comes Carollo, into the pits comes Delano. And it's Dave Moneno that leads this race, pitted on lap 21. Now, is that going to get him to the end? That's the question. He took 3.13 seconds worth of fuel last time. Probably even less than that if you consider the time to jack up the car and get it exactly where you need it. Into the second corner goes Dave. That Lamborghini, as I mentioned last time out, it just looks so compact and planted to the ground, doesn't it? Looks like a very sturdy, very subtly planted race car. Although I've heard it can be a bit of a nightmare on the brakes, you know, trying to break away from you using that rear end pendulum. Dave Moneno seems to have it sorted out though. He's the only Lamborghini in the Pro class that we've seen all year actually. The rest are all Ferraris and Audis. He's not the only Lamborghini though. His teammate James Hebb for SRT Esport also driving the car. Braden Carroll was driving the Lamborghini tonight, but I'm afraid he had an accident earlier. So he is out of the race. It's all a bit spread out at the moment. I'll show you the interval between all of the drivers. So those times are the gap from the car above them in the timing tower to them. All of the pops and bangs and all sorts from here. But there you go. I did say I wasn't sure whether Dave Moneno could make it to the end on the fuel that he's got, and no is the answer, because into the pits he comes. Harry Wills has already gone through. He pitted on lap 36. Pretty sure that he's not going to need to pit again now. He's on lap 39. He's got a bit of traffic to deal with here. That's Jeff Carollo just moving over to the left. Flashes his lights after he's gone past. It's not quite the time to do it, Harry, but maybe that was a little bit of a subtle thank you. Eric Lager is in the pits, which means Dean Timms now leads the class all on his own. He's not got pressure from anybody else behind him. That's Jason Bridges and the Highside Hustlers Motorsport Mercedes. And Jason's going to want to get out of the way. Just over to one side, and he does so. Dean Timms makes his way through. Great stuff. A lot of the back markers today have been really, really good, to be honest with you. It's not an easy place to get out of the way of a faster car that's coming through. But the traffic that we have had has been very well behaved. And that makes a hell of a difference, not just to the drivers at the front end of the pack that are going to be lapping more of the cars and coming through quickly. It makes a difference to the whole race in terms of how it looks, how it's presented. You know, if you have a series or a broadcast and you see some pretty bad driving, then it's a very heart-dropping moment. I've run a number of leagues myself and broadcasted them as well, and yeah, you see two drivers come together, and you know these people. You know these people, so you understand how they feel in certain scenarios, and yeah, you always wonder, oh God, I bet he's so angry. And then, you'll whack open Discord, have a chat on there, wherever else, and the drivers will be fine. It's just part of racing, and they accept that. We're over an hour of the way through the race now. Only 15 minutes separate us from the end and separate Harry Wills from a race win. My God, that's a close moment. That's the sort of moment that can make or break a race. If you overcorrect that and you spit the car the wrong way, you are done. And Harry is really fighting this thing. He's pushing it. That's one thing the Audi doesn't always take to, is being pushed. But still, Harry's had enough tries at pushing the Audi around. He's crashed out of the lead in the pre-qualifying at the start of the season at Suzuka. Big moment on the way into Spoon Curve. He's just had a number of incidents here and there, hasn't he, over the course of the season. Not always inflicted by himself, but sometimes just in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting caught up in what other people are doing. but still, Harry's been doing a great job of not just running the league, of course racing in it as well. He's been very entertaining as things go. This is Dean Timms currently leading the Pro-Ams. The car right in front of him is, I believe... Oh, it was James Hebb. Just trying to see who was on the same lap, because for some reason I decided to go for that information over the livery, but again, I'll reiterate how tired I am at this time of the morning. 25-3 here in the UK. We've got 13 minutes of the race left to go. Harry Wills leads by 9 points to Tyler Campbell. He is then 13 seconds clear of Dave Moneno, who's another 13 seconds clear of our Pro-Am leader, Dean Timms. These are the closest two on track right now. Justin Delano and Jeff Carollo. The pair of them swapped around on that previous lap. That was for P13. Just watching them swoop around the opening section of the lap. That's Sterenvact Bocht and Canal Bocht into Lucien Bianchi Bocht. Pretty sure that Bocht means either corner or turn. And you know what? Just for everybody, just for those of you that are watching, I will translate it for you. And yeah, it means bend, basically. So I was kind of right, kind of wrong. You get the idea. But right now, Justin Delano is on the move. He's up to third in his class. Looking at pit stops, he last pitted on lap 36. Cars ahead, lap 32 and 34. So an even spread between the three of them, Daniel Florea and Steven Martinez. It's close now between Michael Kulaga and Jason Bridges. These two in two different classes though. Jason in the AM class, Michael in the Pro-Ams. So Jason could easily let him go and not worry about it, but at the same time he'd probably want somebody to race, if I'm honest with you. Some of these races can feel a little bit lonely if you're just a tiny bit further down the order. You know, and you're not right up there leading the way all the way through. It can make a huge amount of difference to your confidence as well, based on how far up the front of the order you are and how long for. This is Tyler Campbell, currently in second place with what's left of the front end of that Ferrari. I really hope that it isn't down to curb damage or anything like that he may have had sooner. We're just about to hit 1 hour and 5 minutes, so 10 minutes to go then here at Zolder in round 7 of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship, the US split. I apologise for calling it round 6 at the top of the broadcast. Just having a look at lap times to see if anybody's improved from the times earlier on, but no, Harry Wills 1:27.6. That is the current fastest time. Daniel Tenorio has matched it, but Daniel has been in the pits for a good 5 minutes. John Cooper went back into the pits as well after more issues there, so those two right down the order. Jonathan Ouellette 20th after fixing his damage earlier on. So we only have the 3 pro drivers, to be honest with you, right up there at the minute. See if we can give you a bit of this. If we do that, and then give you that on the left hand side. There you go. That is the overall order. You can see how it's mixed up quite a lot between the pros at the top, then Pro-Ams in blue, and then Ams in red. You can see just how much movement there is. But we get them back into their specific classes and class colours. and then their class positions as well. Thank you again to the always wonderful guys behind SDK Gaming, our phenomenal overlay software. Also controls the cameras of the cars. What car you're looking at, you can do an entire broadcast using it. It's fantastic. When you do get to learn it, it's something you really fall in love with. I've spent one too many hours on SDK just editing some of the CSS and editing the colour and positioning of stuff. That's what gives us wonderful overlay we have today. We've got the logos in the top right corner as well, fading from one to the next. That's the Sim 3D logo, which I actually made. And we've got the Race Anywhere World Series Leagues logo as well, their crest. Great to see a crest like that. It'd make an awesome badge if you could get the detail right. Just a hint there, Harry. But still, not long of this race left to go now. 7.5 minutes. And this is not the battle for the lead. This is Tyler Campbell on the back of the 14th place car, which is Michael Fowler. He's trying to put a lap on him, but Harry Wills in the Audi, every single time we come to him, he's really close to the grass and really close to losing the back end there. We're on board again with the 5.2 litre V10 powered Audi R8. Listen to the revs spiking as the wheels spin up as he touches the grass. Hard onto the brakes into the chicane. Turns in nice and late. You know, you don't want to overdo it on the way into the chicane. You can easily snatch a brake in there and over-rotate the car. Harry having a bit of a weave in and out. Maybe someone saying, "You're on the broadcast, Harry. Do a bit of a weave." And so he has done. Certainly looking good though at the moment, isn't it, for the number 95 machine? If you go back to pre-season qualifying to determine the grid for the first round, he had a very strong performance, but then unfortunately threw it all away at Spoon Curve at Suzuka. But it happens in the Audi. I've had a horrendous night myself in that Audi at Suzuka. I used to race in a GT3 based championship on iRacing that was 3 races in a night. 3 sprint races, 3 20-minute sprint races. It was amazing fun at times and very stressful at others. But it must be said that that Audi is not for the faint of heart. It's not a car that is easy to drive at all. It's quick when you get it dialed in and quick when you've got the right person behind the wheel, but yeah, it's not easy at all. Hello again to all of our new viewers as well. Thank you very much for joining us so far this evening. Please do remember to make sure that you have liked the video and of course subscribed to Absolute Sim Racing as well. We hope to bring you many more series just like this. And I am your host and commentator and broadcaster and one-man band this evening, Chaz Draycott. This is Dean Timms leading the Pro-Ams, trying to just sort of navigate his way through all of the obstacles that he seems to come up against. 5 minutes left now in the race. 1 hour and 10 minutes complete. The 2 closest cars on track are Gary Brown and Stephen Martinez, within a second of each other. Other than that, the whole field is pretty well spread out. We'll take one more look at the track map before we retire it for the day. Say goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye, track map. As you can see there, though, the whole field is very evenly spread. So in terms of gaining a position now, you've just got to hope for a mistake or a crash from whichever rival it is that you want to overcome. Bit of a moment there for Stephen Martinez. He leads the AM field from Daniel Florea, Justin Delano behind him. Daniel Florea is currently 5th in the championship with Delano 1st. Martinez is 2nd, 485 points, 30 points clear. Or, sorry, 30 points behind Justin Delano. Justin 3rd in the race at the moment, so he'll only lose 10 points, I believe, in the championship. So the closer and closer we get to the end of the championship, the more comfortable drivers like Justin are starting to look. Good friend of mine and fellow commentator Peter Mackay always discusses the British Touring Car Championship with me, and we often mention the Ashley Sutton driving style where it's just all guns blazing all the time, incredible pace and great consistency, but unfortunately one move too many can sometimes cause issues, as it did in Croft, or at Croft I should say, a good few years ago. He went for a move, unfortunately there was contact, got a puncture, and in a race where his main championship rival was out at turn 1, he also had to drop right down in getting that tyre changed. We have our eyes on Justin Delano right now, as I mentioned him before. He's got over 10 seconds to the guys ahead of him, so not much he can do. Harry Wills is one of the next cars just ahead. He is just going into the final chicane now, so it's 1.5 minutes a lap, so we'll get 2 more laps out of this one, because that'll take us to 1 hour and 14 minutes next time he crosses the line. Maybe 1 hour 14 and 15 seconds. Let's try that on for size. So car 95 looks like it could potentially, I'm touching wood here, looks like it could potentially be on its way to a race victory for the first time this season. Harry's best result so far has been 2 second places, one at the first round and then one at round 5. He's been 6th, or classified 6th at least, in a couple of other races as well, where once you complete over a certain race distance, if you do retire, you will be included on the results. So Harry has done all he needs to do at certain races. Obviously the pro class, the smallest class out of them all that we have, but still very, very fierce. A lot of consistency needed to be at the top of that pile, that is for sure. So Stephen Martinez still leads in AM. However, the car right behind him is Daniel Florea, who was through that little moment there, gained quite a lot of time off him, 0.4 of a second. These guys get the white flag. It's going to be their last lap of the race. Or is it? Because Harry Wills crosses the line now. So I think, to be fair, wrong battle, I think to be fair, these two fighting for the front, they're going to have another lap after this one. Let's keep our eye on it as he switches away. But Harry Wills now only has 3/4 of a lap to do. The Twisted Racing Team Audi R8 LMS is on its way to a win if things stay as they are. All it would take is one mistake for Tyler Campbell to then overtake him. 9.3 seconds is the gap. But Harry has been very, very solid in this race. We've seen some epic drives from him. Look at that, the back end still trying to break away. The car does not want to behave itself at all. Wow, oh wow, he's right on the edge of losing this thing. Either that or he's weaving and weaving to show his delight. Whoa! Certainly the showman, if he is. Flipping heck, Harry. With the way that car is, he's very close to throwing it out the window. But into the final corner then. Round 7 of the Race Anywhere World Series. US split goes to Harry Wills. He's finally done it. Brilliant stuff. Well done, mate. Well done, Harry Wills. Great drive. Awesome consistency in that one for Tyler Campbell as well. He's going to cross the line in 2nd position. Very well done, Tyler. And championship leader extends his gap once again. Dave Moneno taking the win there. Dean Timms is going to be next up to take the flag, and he is going to take another convincing victory in the Pro-Am category. Well done to Dean Timms. That's Twisted Racing win in the Pro class and the Pro-Ams. Taylor Lane, on his return to the championship after a week out, does a great job and gets another second place. More podium positions for him. Kai Dalziel, representing the very best of Mercedes, gets third place and a class podium. Very well done indeed to Kai Dalziel. What a fantastic season he's having. Now he's turned it on after a disastrous first round. And my oh my, this is the fight for the class win in AM, and down the inside. Oh no, Stephen just turned straight in on Daniel there. It was defiant. It was decisive. And it goes the way of Florea. Twisted Racing get 1, 2, and 3 class wins here tonight at Zolder. Stephen Martinez does recover to second. But we have to have another quick look at this again. Stephen just didn't have the room. Daniel was plenty alongside, unfortunately, for Stephen. Wasn't enough that could be done there to stop that incident. So, what a phenomenal race. What a phenomenal night. That certainly flew by, didn't it, everybody? We'll take a look at our results. And I believe we ought to look at one Harry Wills, who is doing some donuts and burnouts and all sorts. And into the wall. Here are the donuts. That's Dean Timms and Harry Wills. He cares not for the condition of this Audi now. And as Ethan has said in the chat, finally for Harry, finally the win comes his way. He knows exactly where the camera is. Listen to it. Well, you can't argue with that, can you? That's a very, very happy man there in the form of Harry Wills. Taking the win by over 10 seconds to Tyler Campbell. Dave Moneno finishes in third, and he is the last car on the lead lap in class. Jonathan Ouellette 2 laps down, Daniel Tenorio 3 laps down, and John Cooper, unfortunately, not classified. Twisted Racing get another win in the Pro-Am class, with Dean Timms taking the win by 13.5 seconds over Taylor Lane. Kai Dalziel finishes in third. Great drive once again. Eric Kulaga finishes fourth, with Errol Urixoy in fifth, and Gary Brown in sixth place. Then we have Jeff Carollo and Michael Kulaga 1 lap down each. Andrew Rasmussen was classified 7 laps down, with Jeremy Littleton 11 laps down. Braden Carroll and Logan Vida were not eventually at the end of the race, if that makes sense. The AMs, though, Daniel Florea takes the win, and once again, the most spread out class of them all. You have to say that when these guys are being lapped, it obviously throws a big blanket over all of them. Daniel Florea wins 9.1 seconds over Stephen Martinez. Not representative, though, of how close that was right to the end, but Daniel getting alongside Stephen, unfortunately losing out in the final chicane. Justin Delano, Michael Fowler, James Hebb, Jason Bridges and Matthew Plaisance all 1 lap down. John Casey classified 2 laps down in his Porsche. So, it's about that time of the night, though, where we grab some guys for interviews. And to be honest with you, we've got quite a couple of people lined up to have a chat with. The first of which I was hoping would be our overall race winner, but the man I'm going to bring in instead is our Pro-Am winner, Mr. Timms. Dean, that was, well, quite an under-the-radar performance for somebody that's just won a class. I mean, to be fair, the gap just sort of came out of nowhere after the pit stops. Were you expecting it to be that big?
That's overconfident. We did a little work on the setup, and I've had pace all through the free practice sessions, so I was pretty confident once I got some clean air, I could create a bit of a gap, try and haul some points, try and take the championship a little bit earlier than the last round, because I won't be here for a couple of rounds. So
Intriguing indeed. Well, you certainly had a job to do and you got it done tonight. How was the circuit? Because Zolder's a bit of a funny one. I mean, it's really, really tricky no matter what, but sometimes the conditions can make it that little bit more bearable in some of the quicker corners. Did it feel all right tonight?
Yeah, it felt at the start of the race. He was okay, sort of taking the curbs a little bit harder. As the sort of track rubbers in, becomes a bit greasy. It's advisable just to avoid them. Maybe just kiss them a little bit with your tyres, and because otherwise, as the car unsettles in its mid-air, you get a lot of lateral movement, and then the car wants to over-rotate. So it's just adapting through the race, really, just try and compensate for that.
And did you feel like the Ferrari was the correct tool for the job tonight then? Because it seemed to handle quite a lot.
Wow, yeah, it was on rails. It was so good. It didn't do anything that was unexpected. Just very undramatic, which is what you want at a circuit like this.
Oh, definitely. You want a car that'll just do the job without any fuss, really. So it's good to know that the Ferrari was a stable platform for you. Obviously, missing a few rounds near the end of the season is never ideal, but we look forward to seeing how that goes for you, mate. It should at least make things very, very interesting as we go on to Daytona next week.
Yeah, he will, yeah. I mean, Taylor's been an absolute missile in that BMW.
Oh, he is.
So any chance I can just to create a little bit of a gap, give me an outside chance to try and hold on to it.
Well, if there's any way in the world of subtly calling Taylor Lane a weapon, then I'm up for it, to be honest. But either way, it's going to be a fantastic championship fight. Dean, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to before you go?
Just shout out to yourself, Chaz. Always doing an amazing job. Rest of my teammates. And my mate Twiggy, who helped me put the setup together. The car felt great. So, yeah, thanks, guys.
Lovely stuff. Thanks for the kind words, buddy. And great to speak to you again. Well done on the win. And we'll see you very, very soon, mate. Nice one.
Yeah, see you later, mate.
Cheers. Dean Timms there, your Pro-Am winner, and, well, the only one up you can go from that, really, from Pro-Am winner, is to overall and Pro winner, and series admin, Harry Wills. Harry, you must be absolutely over the moon, mate. The car certainly looked like it had a man at the wheel that was over the moon. How are you feeling now?
I am, you know what, I think it's been... I can't even remember how long it's been since I've won one of the races that I've put together. I'm just really happy. It was a good race. A lot of things went my way, of course, which you kind of need sometimes. But
yeah,
I'm chuffed to bits. I mean, I drove the BMW in the European Series earlier on today, and I didn't get on with that at all. So I much prefer driving the Audi. I look forward to the American one a little bit more for driving aspects. So, yeah, it was a good race. I had a 57% left rear tyre at the end of that race, before the donuts. So it was a little bit sketchy, but yeah, I mean, fantastic for me twisted guys. So a winning Am, a winning Pro-Am, and a winning Pro, even though the winning Am might have to be looked at a little bit. But other than that, no, it was fantastic, and yeah, enjoyed that one. Weird, because I didn't think I would around here, but I did enjoy that one.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Zolder is such a niche circuit, very Marmite, because of how narrow it is, because of how steep the curbs are. You never have a moment's rest at Zolder, even down the straights. The straights are all really small. But you mentioned there that left rear. I mean, every time you came round Turleman box near the end of the lap, it's the double right-hander after the Villeneuve chicane, it honestly looked like you were just ready to put it in the wall every single time.
There was one lap specifically, and I don't know if you've caught it or not, but I think it was about lap 43 or 42, where I came through the double right-hander before you get down into that hairpin. And, I mean, I looked death square in the eye at that moment there, because it was everywhere but on the track.
Were you dialing the dry cleaners on the way?
Yeah, I need a new seat and everything. It was good fun, but it was just, things went my way. I think Tyler had some problems. Obviously, Dave, I think had a couple of little issues. Obviously, Jonathan Olet had a bit of a bump on the first lap, and then I think had some problems in the pits. And I've got to say, even though we haven't got the biggest of pro fields in this series, I just don't think I've ever had 4 or 5 cars, or that are so tightly sort of compact.
Yeah.
And I'd hate to say it, I'd much rather have. All right, it'd be nice to have, obviously, a full pro field. Of course it would do. But I'd much rather have 5 guys that can race solidly together. Yeah, things are always going to go a little bit south sometimes naturally, but they can bash laps in on the same sort of keel. They can race good round each other. Than have 10 or 15 guys that are just one guy's a second quicker than the next guy and it goes down from there. So, but some of the racing that we've had across the season so far has been absolutely fantastic. I've just got to say massive thank you to all the guys, everyone part of the series that turns up week in, week out to come and enjoy their racing with us. We've just launched a endurance series that goes live on the 5th of March. That's got 52 teams registered in it, and a lot of the teams are from the European and the American series, and some of them obviously from the Porsche series that we've done. So that goes live. I think you guys are putting that together for us to put the broadcast on. That's going to be something really special to see all the guys. The one thing I'm looking forward to most with that is to see the guys from the US series go sort of head to head with the guys in the EU series, because there's a lot of crossover. So that'll be quite cool to bring them all together in one big endurance championship. So
yeah, it'd be great to see how that all comes into one. And like you say, when you're matching up the different drivers from different series, that's especially when we've seen them individually on track in their own series as well, it'll be mega. But of course, the main point tonight, that phenomenal win, Harry. You go and enjoy it, mate. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just the guys that put the series together with myself. Obviously, there's Dean, there's Matt, there's Matt Heatrick as well, who does all the website stuff. But every single one of the drivers that turn up, I think we've got such a fantastic following, great bunch of guys that turn up, do their racing. Yeah, okay, we all make mistakes. It all goes south sometimes. Sometimes you get out your rig at the end of the day or end of the race going, what the hell am I doing? But, the guys that come back, they have a good race and hopefully everybody enjoys it. And hopefully, there's not a single driver on that field that I wouldn't invite back into the next series or any of the other series I put together. So just a big thank you to those for making it. And a big thank you to you for staying up till 2 minutes past 3 on a regular basis of being able to bring it to us. So, just appreciate it, mate. So, God, a win.
Finally.
Don't know what to do with myself. It's weird. So, mate, thank you very much. All right.
No worries. Well, you say about getting out of the rig and saying, what am I doing? To be fair, I do that when I get in the rig, but there's a reason I'm a commentator. Anyway, pleasure to speak to you, Harry. Thank you very much, mate, and we'll see you again soon.
You shall indeed. See you later. Thank you. Cheers.
And that, everybody, is unfortunately all we have time for tonight. But what a brilliant evening, especially if you're part of Twisted Racing Team. A 1-2-3, technically, in terms of a win in Pro, a win in Pro-Am, and a win in Am as well. Harry Wills, Dean Timms, and Daniel Fleurer getting the job done. A great night's racing at Zolder is very quickly behind us. But before you know it, we'll be back with you in a week's time at the wonderful Daytona. But for now, I've been Chaz Draycott, this has been Absolute Sim Racing, and this has been the Race Anywhere World Series, Season 2 from the United States. Thanks very much for joining me, everybody. I'll see you in a week. For now, have a great evening. Cheers.